Welcome to the Witches Movie Coven. Witches talking about witches in movies. I am Patti Negri. I am one of your hosts. And let me introduce you to our other co-host, Jason Mankey, writer, witch, many, many books to his name. Richard-Lael Lillard, the gentleman psychic, medium, gentleman extraordinaire. Heather Greene, author, writer, witch, and Courtney Buckley. Ghost bait. No. We are here every week, and I will let them all explain more later. But this week, we are talking about The Love Witch. We've been talking about it for a few weeks, and I have never seen it. And I was expecting it to be like, I don't know, I was thinking it was going to be something like The Good Witch, like kind of hallmarky. Oh, was I wrong? So, maybe we will turn this over to Heather if you want to give us your historical, since you are the author of all things witches in movies.
Sure. I basically, this is a horror movie. It's an indie film. The director, writer, creator, Anna Biller did a really awesome job of capturing the 1970s horror film feel and putting that in a modern take and doing a really good job of showing witchcraft in a modern sense. But before we get into that, I think Courtney wants to say a few things. So I'm going to let her jump in and interrupt me.
Thank you, Heather. So yeah, unfortunately, guys, I'm so sorry to my coven. I'm so sorry to our viewers watching. I can't stay today. You guys know I've been plugging my anti-Valentine's Day tour for a couple of weeks. I am in crunch time now, and I have to get down to business. So I didn't get a chance today to watch the movie because I've been swamped. So I just came on to say hi to you guys and that I love you, and also to remind you, if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, we're running the anti-Valentine's Day tour in Salem. It's going to be on the trolley, and it's running from the 10th to the 14th. We do have Friday and Saturday are sold out, but there are still tickets left for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday as well. So if you go on to salemghosttours.com, you can book your tickets. It's just an amazing time. Murder and mayhem, stories of love gone wrong in Salem. What better way to celebrate the worst holiday of all time? And it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. So I love you guys, and I have to run. I can't be with my coven for the whole time. I'm so sad.
We love you.
We understand.
We love you.
Have fun.
I'll keep you guys posted. I'll have you on in my headphones in the background. So
and report back next week.
I will for sure. And I'll watch The Love Witch so I can give by next week. So I can give just a little quick wands up or wands down when I get back.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Good luck.
Okay, so bye, Courtney. We miss you already. So Heather, did you have anything else about the movie itself you wanted to go back into, or?
Sure. I'll just point out that this is a type of horror. It's very much has a feminist aesthetic, and I had a great time speaking with Anna about her point and what she was trying to do with it. And so, but what's intriguing, one thing that strikes everybody when they watch it is the aesthetic, because she really was trying to capture that 1970s pulp fiction. A feel in the look and the feel. She also filmed it in 35 millimeter, which, if you don't know nowadays, most films are not filmed on traditional film. They're done digitally. This one was done digital. This one was done on real film. So that's why the color is one of the reasons the color is so rich and the texture of the film is so unique for us today looking at various films. And I think it is absolutely beautiful. She did a phenomenal job with what she was trying to do. And so that's sort of the basic idea of it. So I guess we can get talking about the representation of witchcraft and all the other good stuff. I think, wait a minute. Oh, there he is. I thought we lost another coven member.
We're dropping off like flies.
What's going on here?
Like the lovers from The Love Witch.
I'm distracted by all of the love. I just don't know what to do.
Okay, so who wants to go next? Richard-Lael? Thoughts?
I will go next. I will tell you, I cannot say enough nice things about this film. For the very reason that I hated Annabelle, the exact opposite is one of the reasons that I love The Love Witch. So, yes, she did capture the 1960s, 1970s, and it was in the film. It was in the makeup. The makeup and hair were so good, and it's ostensibly a much smaller budget than Annabelle, but without question, even though the cars were still, her car is a 64 Mustang, one of the lovers' cars is a 1970 something, but all of the other cars were all modern, and the people of the town, they were all modern, but everyone in the story was 1969, 1975, somewhere in between, and it was, on that small of a budget, so much better than Annabelle for that very reason. I wasn't pulled out of the story thinking, oh, that's not quite right. So I love it. I love everything about it. It makes me giggle. And when I watch a horror film, that's the one thing I want to do, is to giggle.
Thank you. Jason, thoughts?
I love this movie. I think that this is the best representation of especially Wiccan style witchcraft ever captured on film, in a commercial film, something other than a documentary. I mean, she is kind of a problematic character in some ways, but you still love her and you sympathize with her despite her flaws. I love everything about it. I love, as Richard-Lael's talking about, the aesthetic of the movie. I remember when it came out in 2016, and I think by 2017 we'd all started to watch it on streaming services and stuff. And there were people who were really turned off by the aesthetic of it, and especially the acting performances, which kind of feel stilted and not authentic. But that is period. That's how movies were back then. That kind of overacting. That worst punch I've ever seen in a film is in The Love Witch. I'm sure you all know which punch I'm talking about. And I think it all works. It's supposed to be like that. And it's brilliant, and it's fun, and it's campy. And I've seen it several times before I rewatched it today, but all of a sudden I just found myself sucked back into it, unable to take my eyes off the screen.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, I was so expecting something different when we were doing Love Witch. I look like one of those puppies in a mirror that your head cocks to the left and your head cocks to the right. And what is this? What is this? Again, like the stylized acting, the beauty of the sets, the weirdness of her, and then like really real magic. Like, oh, they're doing that. Okay, there you go. I just couldn't put, I was really tired, but I couldn't put my eyes down. I wouldn't fall asleep. It was like looking at art in a weird way. Some of the oddest, weird, on purpose acting imaginable.
Yes.
It's like an overized version of that 60s, 70s, like that 50s, that fast pattern that they did in those 40s and 50s. This was just brilliant. And then I even giggled at things like going into the real, like the ceremonial, which I was like, yeah, the guys always do look like that. If it's like, yeah, that's not who you want to be making out with. Like, yes, dude, that is so beautiful and so ugly all at the same time. So much of it, I was going beauty, ugly, ugly, beauty, which was amazing.
What's interesting is that she was able to capture, like Jason said, a representation of not only just magic and witchcraft as it was in a Wiccan, specifically with a Wiccan flavor. She also captured the culture a little bit too, like some of the, like her conversations with the high priest and the high priestess, and their looks and the things they said felt very authentic. And one thing Anna said is that she when we did our interview, she told me that some of the actors that were in those scenes were actually Wiccan and witches. She had friends that were involved. She also, she had been in and around the occult world for a long time. She got her first tarot deck, a Marseille deck actually, years ago. So she wasn't unfamiliar with the occult world going into this film. And then of course, some of the people in the film were actually practitioners. So you wind up with that authenticity there. And what I found very interesting is a lot of the 1970s occult films that had representation of witchcraft, they only showed nudity for women because they were only that was part of this exploitation era. That was part of the witchploitation, is that you saw a lot of naked women, specifically tops, but sometimes full frontal, and you rarely ever saw naked men, rarely, because that was part of the misogyny of those films. This film did not do that, and that's one of the beauties of what she did is she erased that piece of the representation of witchcraft, of the representation of women and violence, is that she took away what we call in film scholarship the male gaze, and she took away that misogyny. And in the scene, in the ritual scene, all of them were naked, the men and the women. Yeah. If it had really been a 1972 witchcraft film, you would have had clothed men in robes and you would have naked women. So that was a nice piece that she did too.
That's also very Alex Sanders-esque, because Alex Sanders would have his coven naked, especially when you look at those pictures from the 70s and things, but he would always be wearing a robe, right?
Hollywood got it from somewhere, yeah. Jason.
True. You make a really great point in there when you were talking, Heather, about how this kind of reflects a lot of witch and pagan groups today. When we were watching it, we found the high priest completely creepy. Like, yes. We would have used the word creeper to describe that individual.
Yes.
And while I'm watching that, I'm like, I have seen that guy dozens of times at festivals and events. And the whole I'm kind of pretending to be on your side, but I'm trying to take advantage of you sexually thing, spot on, completely spot on.
I agree completely. That's exactly what was emanating from him. Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Haley says he was supposed to be, and I think he was, but Billard captures it so perfectly in the film, just absolutely spot on.
Yeah, and even like the scenes in the dance club, the strip club, it's like, of course. I mean, I know I hang out with vampires and how witches done it at a burlesque thing, and those odd little girls and you know, mind.
Speaking of the strip club, the dance club, you know, I many years ago in Vegas when I was younger, I was an exotic performer. I'll just put it that way, politely, G-rated, you know. I was an exotic performer, and people would come in and they would forget to tip me because I was going into all of these back bends and it was kind of like, oh, this is a real show. But then when these people in this strip club, this dance club, they sort of start blaming all of the witches and it sort of really hypes up that satanic panic that was occurring in the 70s and 80s. I identify with that so much. I mean, my car is Mr. Satan, so I identify with, oh, it's those witches. I identify with that.
Yeah. And again, the ugliness along with the beauty, like the rape scene, kill the witches thing. It's like,
yeah,
you felt it. It's like,
Well, when I wrote my original review, that my reaction to the film, and this is right when it first came out, was one of the things that this film sits in between is the movie Season of the Witch, which is a 1970s film. If you haven't seen it, it is probably one of the best witch films in Hollywood ever made. Okay, Season of the Witch, also called Hungry Wives. So this film sits in between that and American Psycho, and it was a book, and then was made into a movie. So we just got a message. Hold on a second. Our producer is saying that they're having problems posting some of your comments, but keep them coming, so we'll react to them. Anyway, so what I was saying is the film sits between this Season of the Witch and American Psycho. And this gets back to your comment about the ugliness of it, Patti, is that you have this fantastic showing of a woman who finds freedom through witchcraft. She escapes because she's been abused. She was abused by her dad. She was abused by, I can't remember the other people, life, the patriarchy, whatever. And the way she finds freedom for herself and empowerment is through witchcraft. That's Season of the Witch. Okay, and it is a 70s film. She even wears blue eyeshadow in that film. It's fantastic. Okay, but she uses witchcraft is fed through her narcissism, is fed through a sociopathic behavior. That's American Psycho, and it leads to death. So you have this film that sits right between the two, and it's really captures that. It's like a merger. It's like if they had a love child with a little witchcraft thrown in, a little sparkle and a little nose twing. So that is what this film was. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and I see Haley in our comments is right. The urine in the jar, real witch jars. I mean, who doesn't have a jar with pee in it?
What?
My wife. I mean, I can think of a few.
No, I just want to add. Someone said I just found the redo with Nicolas Cage. Season of the Witch that's not the Nicolas Cage movie I'm talking about. So when I say Season of the Witch, I'm talking about a movie originally called Hungry Wives, or Jack's Wife was the original title. Hungry Wives, eventually retitled Season of the Witch because it was because it did horribly in the theaters. This is a 1972 or 73 film. It is not a Nicolas Cage film. It was never redone. It's never been redone. So that's different movie.
And I want to say, Haley, I just want to say, Haley said, don't judge, it does work. I was serious when I said, who doesn't have a witch jar with pee in it? I do in front of my house. I teach it in our school. I teach protection magic. So we weren't judging. We weren't making fun of. She's showing a real witch jar.
I have one. I have one. I got one in front of the house, protection jar.
I have one, but my wife does not have one. That's not the road she wanted to travel. She chose vinegar instead, and I respect that choice for her, but many of us do. And I took the plunge for us. Yeah. So it's fun. It's around the house.
So we just want to apologize, Haley.
No judge.
We were making
judging.
fun. Not at all.
Yeah.
We are there with you 100%.
Yeah.
Maybe we should put that on our merch plate. Which bottles of witches movie cover you supply the
Yeah.
I did a whole one of the books I've worked on through my day job was all about container magic, and many of them include vinegar optional, urine optional, either one, protection magic. It's very much the same. Can you say the original name of it again, please? Oh, the movie. Jack's Wife was the working title. It changed to Hungry Wives and was marketed as if it was porn, which it was not. So it did not do well. And then eventually was remarketed again to Season of the Witch. So it had 3 names. Usually you can find it under Hungry Wives or Season of the Witch. But again, it has never been remade, and it is not the Nicolas Cage movie, which is a very different movie.
Nicolas Cage, to my knowledge, has never been in a remake of a movie. I'm just going to be pretty adamant about that now. There's a rumor that he was in a remake of a very famous movie from the early 70s, but that's not true. That just doesn't exist. It's like a genie movie with Sinbad. It's not real. It lives on an alternate plane. It's just very important to always stress that. There are no bees. There are no bees.
Okay, here's a witch question again from Haley. Sorry, why did she put the witch jar on the grave? Protection?
Put the witch jar on.
Yeah, when he was buried, she put the witch jar on his tomb, and it was because she wanted him to be together with her. That's why she put her bloody, used feminine napkin in it, so that they would be together in death, because she liked him, even though he was not really much of a man, and she just couldn't have one who was not a man. They just become too whiny.
And again, the over the topness of how when the guys all went, it was just again to that ugly point of oh my god, I just loved it. Lisa can't find it. So I don't. Yeah, is this movie that you're talking about, Heather, which now we're all intrigued with? Is this something?
Oh my goodness! I'm sorry. Is it what?
The movie that we're talking about, the Season of the Witch. Is that something we should do a coven on? Is it
absolutely?
I definitely should. I haven't seen it myself, so now Now I
No,
will.
we should, and it is by for some reason George. I know that Rob, our producer, is going to help me out with this because it's late here on the East Coast, so I can't remember. It's by the director who did the zombie movies. Come on,
George
help me out.
Romero.
No,
George
thank
Romero.
you. Gosh, of course. George Romero. There you go. So it is by George Romero. So just look up. All you need to do is Google "Hungry Wives" by George Romero, and you will get it. Okay, forget Season of the Witch. Don't Google that. If you see Season of the Witch by George Romero, that's the same exact movie. So basically, it was a $10,000. I think the budget was like $10,000. And he did, and it's actually in a brilliant film. Very 70s, very much probably one of the best representations of witchcraft as a way of empowering women in the 70s. It's got a very feminist 70s feel. And that's part of why I link it to this movie. And I think I told Anna that, and I think she was psyched about it because I think she was going for that a little bit. But you have this woman who is abused by her husband, by her father, by all this, both movies, who then turn to witchcraft to empower themselves. You have that in The Love Witch. And that's actually a trope. That's actually a narrative trope in witch films, especially later ones. More recent ones, The Craft Legacy. You have this idea that witchcraft is a source, a place that women can go to find empowerment. So anyway, the Season of the Witch or Hungry Wives, watch it. And yes, we should have a coven meeting on it because it's brilliant.
Okay, we will. We're getting out there. I love it. I had something to say and it all left my brain. So somebody else talk.
So Haley brings up a point. She says, can we just say the end of this movie was like being cut off? She stabbed him and then reflected on her painting. And it does, like, it's really jarring. I forgot the end of the movie. You know, spoiler alert, there's a stabbing with anathema because I'm so transfixed on Elaine the whole time, you know, and it's hard for me to imagine that beautiful wounded creature doing anything wrong. So, you know, I'll admit, okay, like while I'm watching that movie, I'm like, why does she like guys with short hair and chiseled jaws who look like they come from Mad Men? Shouldn't she want a man with long blonde hair with some curls in it? Isn't that really the kind of individual she should be interested in? Apparently not, you know.
But then you'd be dead, Jason. So
yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. Hungry Wives.
Wow.
You know, it might have been worth it. I don't know. I'm so transfixed by her. It might have been worth it.
You know what? I am gayer than Christmas, and I think I'm right there with you, Jason.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. That dark hair, the blue eyeshadow, all dressed in black. Yes, I would. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. Gayer
but
than
the movie just kind of peters out, though. I mean, there's the stabbing, and then you see her living this fantasy moment, and then the movie fades to black, and there's kind of no resolution. I know Heather's a movie scholar,
though,
and is going to tell me something different, and that's fine because I'm not a movie scholar. But it's like I wanted more at the end. I want to see, does she go to jail? You know, how does she dispose of that body? Of a cop. I mean, I don't know. I have so many lingering questions.
I loved that aspect, though. I really did, because the entire time she's sort of teetering on the edge. And when she talks about her husband leaving her, and you know she killed him. And then, when so-and-so broke up with me, and you know she killed him. So I think that when she kills this cop, she probably, in my interpretation, she gets arrested and then she gets sent to an insane asylum because clearly she's not thinking rational because she's a witch, and witchcraft isn't rational, which, even though I know that's not the intention, but in the 70s, that would have been kind of a more common trope is, it's not rational. Look what's going to happen. Tell your children marijuana is going to make you know what I mean? It's like reefer madness. So I like the fact that it didn't spell it out.
Yeah, and she doesn't live in her. I mean, her reality was such a different. I think she's She thinks she's innocent. They left her. I didn't do anything wrong. She believes that.
And I also wonder, thinking about her mental state, I wonder if, since she's seeing things in this sort of fairy tale altered, I wonder if even if she starts seeing the love interests in that sort of 70s romanticized way, because all around, all of the people, all of the cars, they're early 2000s, 2016, everything is it's fairly new, excepting for the ones that she's interested in. And I think that you're kind of viewing from her view. And even the apartment, she goes into the apartment, and the realtor says, "Oh, I decorated it, but it's a little bit garish. They're into the occult, and it's a little garish." And she says, "Oh, it's perfectly my taste." But then it makes you wonder, what did it really actually look like?
Yeah, I think most of the film you are envisioning this from her perspective, although it's not, the camera's not necessarily her perspective. No. But I think that there is and you have fantasy scenes. It is a fantasy film that that really takes its cue from her psychosis, that she's been driven not to witchcraft as a psychosis. She's been driven to witchcraft for empowerment, but she also has the psychosis. That's how it feels to me. And that she's negotiating through this tool that she's been given, this power, her own power through witchcraft. And she's negotiating through that, but she's taken it too far. And she's gone too far. And she has this narcissism. She has this sociopathy. She has these things. And so I think the ending that's not an ending, as Jason pointed out, to me is just, it's going to keep going on. And this world is going to keep going on. And that's sort of a commentary that I think Anna has on the condition of women generally, because a lot of this movie is a social commentary. So I think there is no ending in our world. There is no ending in this movie. And so I didn't have a problem with it, that there wasn't a nice, and that's something, and being the film historian, sorry, Jason, but we are used to, as Americans, having a nice tidy bow on every story. That is something we've been trained to like, is our stories need to be buttoned up, tied up. Everybody, the bad guys go to jail, the good guys, ride off into the sunset. We've been trained to understand that type of film. So it's difficult when we have one that is not like that. But I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't feel like the ending was I'm like, okay.
I just like that world so much. I just wanted it to continue.
Yeah.
Sorry, Richard-Lael.
And maybe it will.
When she murdered him, I thought it was awfully nice of her.
I want to go to Heather, because you interviewed the writer. I mean, this must have been just such a passion project. I was noticing everything, like the rug when she was laid out, take me, and I'm like, look at that rug. And then I read later that she made it. She literally sewed that rug herself. She made the clothes she couldn't find. She was finding gunny sacks dresses from the day. I remember that when I was a kid. It was.
Yeah, she's in India. She does. I know she sews her own costumes, and I don't remember all. I'd have to pull up my article with some of the quotes that she said, and I was more interested in the narrative and the themes of it and stuff. We talked a little bit about, and she's very open about how she did it. But I know in some of her other movies too, I know she sews costumes. She actually acts in some of her she's performs in some of her other films as well. I think one's called Viva. I can't remember all of the various films she does, but they all have, she just has this I don't know what the word is. Her films all have this kind of stylized feel about them, and feminist feel, which is pretty neat.
And some of the props from the movie are on display at the Buckley Museum of Witchcraft and Magic in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow.
So
I didn't know that.
If you are there, you can there's like a whole case with some of the things from the film. So yeah, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So did she use people? Did she work with, or she just researched? She knew some of the occult, and she had friends who were witches and in the occult. So it's not like
Yes.
she had witch on set going, no, we circle this way. She just.
No, I don't believe so. She had people, some of the actors that played witches in the film were actual witches, is what she told me. And then, of course, she had friends. And so I don't think she had an occult consultant, so to speak, official. I think she probably, between her friends, her own experience, and then the people on the set. And you know, and there's so much material readily available at this point, so she did a lot of studying and research too, and that came across. I think so. And I don't know, she captured the culture, which is something that's hard to do if you are not in the culture. Like Jason said, the high priest was a perfect example of that. It's the first thing I thought of too. She was able to capture something, so she must have had enough people on set to be able to help with that.
Yeah, that was amazing. Even some of the chants that they did, I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we know what they're saying. Yeah, so it was wild.
The liturgies and the rituals felt like something straight out of Janet and Stuart Farrar's The Witch's Bible, or Eight Sabbaths for Witches, or depending on how you get that stuff. But it really had that Wiccan feel, and you could tell that she was looking at real source materials and not just sort of making up rites. Though it would be funny because I would like hear the beginning of the Charge of the Goddess, and it would just be a little off, or they would skip a line here or there. And sometimes you have to do that because it's a movie and you only have so much time. But I like wanted to hear the whole thing, right? Because, you know, it's something that I know and it's so powerful to me. But it's great that those lines that we know are in the movie, though. You know, usually you don't get that. You get Manon or whatever else it is.
Manon.
And that's the neat part about the 70s films too. It was one of the, you know, you'd be surprised, you know, you have a period of time when Wicca and witchcraft and the occult were popular, yet they were very much maligned at that period of time, but they were highly popular. So you think, okay, there probably wasn't real stuff in the movies, but there was. And that's the neat part about watching those old 70s horror films, is that you'll go, wait a minute, hold on a second. That I know that chant. All right, wait a minute. They just said this, that, and these are embedded in films that are not portraying witches very well. Not like The Love Witch. So these films do, but the Season of the Witch, Hungry Wives, the one I was talking about earlier, they do the fivefold kiss, and they do. She uses some other chants out of Paul Hewson's books. So you go, wait a minute, I know what she's doing right there. And so there's some real stuff going on in that film too. And when you see that, you just go, I know what you're up to right now. Rather than the Manons and you know, twinkling of the noses and stuff like that.
Right. That was good. Robert Hicks, by the way, is standing up for her. She only killed one person. The rest was just happened after the after effects.
I mean, technically, yes, he is. Technically, the cop is the only one she actually murdered. The other ones she drugged to death, and then she was bored, and so she sort of made certain that they overdosed. So she definitely had a hand in their death.
Yeah.
And then she said, "Oh, go on."
No, and I think that's the thing that's always so jarring at the end to me, because I want to believe that she didn't really kill these people, right? That
she
maybe
might not have.
Like she might have pushed them to do something that they didn't want to do, like commit suicide or something, because she's so intoxicating, because her magic is so strong, because her presence is so strong. But then at the end, to watch her stab somebody in the chest with the blood, it's so visceral, and it's so different from everything else that had been in the film. You know, because at that moment, I'm going back. Did she really kill these other people? Maybe it was their own fault. I mean, it's hard to imagine.
They all died of heart attacks.
Beautiful Elaine, you know, who should meet me one day, like killing these other people. You know, it's hard for me to buy.
And I do like the line that she says too, when they inquire, the police inquire as to, okay, your witch bottle is found, your coat is found at the scene, you've been here, you buried this body. Why? I buried a body according to my religion? What? I mean, he died of natural causes. He had a heart attack. I just buried a body according to my religion.
No, she had some great lines. There were some great, not that I'm good with quotes to remember them, but the great lines. Like even when she did get busted, I think it was by the cop. She's like, her answer was like, I was naughty. Something like, you killed it. I was naughty. That's it.
It's a what was I was gonna say someone. I lost it. Oh my goodness!
I just keep leaving my head too.
No. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. So, do we feel like maybe her sociopathy and her narcissism and her behavior, this sort of world she lives in, she's like leveling up at the end. Okay, now it's pushed her to a new level. If before she was only driving people to take their lives or go crazy or whatever, she didn't actually. Now at the end, she's reached a new level. She's leveled up, and so she sits there with the knife, and that's the ending. Okay, now I'm on a new level of this program that I've been walking down this path. So that sort of becomes the ending. Okay, now where is this going to go?
And we'll find out in Love Witch 2, Electric Boogaloo. You know,
there you
that'll
go.
come out.
Let me find out. Hang on a second. Is she's doing that?
There was one other thing we haven't really talked about in the movie, and that's how in that little town that they're in, the witches are everywhere. I mean, they're just an established subculture with numbers. We don't want to mess with the witches. There are so many witches here at the burlesque club where everyone hangs out, you know, apparently in the city, because, you know, that's how a lot of cities are. You know, I know that I'm going to the burlesque club right after this and having a drink with a cop. You know, that's just how it goes. But I found that really fascinating, you know, that the witches were such a, like, they had so many numbers that they were such a big part of the town, and they didn't want to bother them.
Until they did.
Until they did.
Witches.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, they made people look, especially men, look so ugly, except for her love interests. But other than that, it's just ugly energetically. I'm not even meaning facial figures completely, just like ugly.
Well, and again, it goes back to her psychosis. She was abused by her father, by her husband, by everyone in her life, or her high priest.
Man.
Everyone had sort of taken advantage of her, and she was sort of, in a way, she was sort of like a brunette Marilyn Monroe, is that she was so innocent and sweet at one point, and then everyone just saw her as the sex object, and then she sort of became that.
Yes. I completely agree with that reading, and that's what sort of transformed her into the need to search for love. She says that, I want love. I just want love. Everything's about love, and it's like this seeking. And I think that was like Marilyn Monroe. That was one of her things, just searching and desperately looking for that love. But it leads, in the case of Elaine, it leads to this psychosis and these accidents. And you know, we talk about in witchcraft, you know, love magic is wonderful, it sounds all beautiful, but there's cautions, and so it's serious cautions. You know, it's cautions as great as when you are cautioning people to hex or not to hex. It's there's big cautions when it comes to love magic. And I think she's found the witchcraft and the power, but she's found the love magic, and then she goes too far because she's dropped into this imaginary world of seeking, of needing love, of 70s pulp fiction.
You know, that's something too that I also identify with. This I'm going to tell on myself. So yes, I was a burlesque dancer, a male burlesque dancer. Yes, this is what I did many, many years ago. I enjoyed it. I had fun, but I also really enjoyed, I wanted people to fall in love with me, and I would meet men, and I would seduce them, and then it was sort of a game, as how many can I make them fall in love with me. And then we're friends to this day, but I'm going to tell you a very personal story. So when I lived in San Francisco, I had met this person online, and we had this evening. It was all planned. Everything was going to be great. We were going to have this plan. We were going to meet up, and he didn't show up. So a week goes by, and then he calls me and he says, I would love to come over. I'm sorry. I was stoned. I forgot. And I said, okay, come over. But if you forget, you can forget about me. So while we were in the throes of passion, I cast a little love spell on this individual, and I drew on his body and the infinity symbol, and I told him he was going to love me. He was going to love me. And the problem was that I fell madly in love with him. And we're good friends now, but we were not good lovers. We were not good to each other. And so it really took its toll. I actually, sometime later, he asked me, he says, wow, it feels like you've put some kind of spell on me. And I said, what? What? So I get it. And love spells, they can really, truly, absolutely backfire. And they did on me. And then it took several years and many thousands of tears between both of us, and moving away and actually physically breaking the spell. But I identified, I understand, love magic it's a powerful thing. It's also something that is not to be messed with. So I've learned my lesson. I won't do that. I don't do magic.
And Richard-Lael, that's a lesson that we have as something repeated in witch films over and over and over again. It's one of the main topics, and I do a lecture on this sometimes, on what a witch wants is the talk I give. And that's one of the main things witches want is love. And when I did, when I talked about this movie originally, I talk about how that is what's so important and so a lot of what we see in witch films coalesce in this film. And in my book, I parallel this to another witch movie that came out right at the same time, which is called The Witch. And The Witch, that one coalesced half of what we see in Hollywood. It had the horror and the tropes of the fairy tales and all of those things. This one captured ceremonial magic, ritual, love, and feminism. And so it really, she brings all these things that Hollywood's been cycling around in its cauldron and just threw it all into this film. Pow! And love is one of them. Love is one of them. How many movies have we seen? The Craft Legacy. I mean, another two films. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful where you cast your love spell this Valentine's Day.
And whatever use that infinity, Richard-Lael, I really much won't use that for anything.
Well, I will say
this. A very long time.
He and I, we talk all the time. We are very good friends now. There was about a year we didn't talk. But we are very good friends. We are better friends than we were ever lovers. And actually, I had to go through and break it. And long story short is I had to say to him, from here, I had his effigy, and I broke it. And I said, I remove you from me, from the east to the west, that I don't wish you any ill. I put you back on the path where you were going. I want you to be happy. I want you to be loved. I want you to be joyful. I want good things for you. But I know that when we're together, we are toxic for each other, and I can't do that. So I no more love. But I don't think someone asked if I ever told him, and I think I just did.
Well, all right. I think it's time for our wands up, unless anybody else has anything to say about this. So the Love Witch, wands up, wands down. And we want all of you out there, Tabitha, Big G, Robert, Malika, all of you vote. Wands up, wands down.
Mine is so far up, it's above the screen.
I was going to say, I can't see your wand, Richard-Lael. I can't see your wand.
Because it's so good, it's above the screen.
Wands up from Natural Born Witch. Wands level from Robert Hicks. Oh, that's our neutral one. up from Haley. Up in advance for some of you who haven't seen it. 3 thumbs up. So anyway, so we've got it. We have 1 level for Robert Hicks, and everybody else is kind of thumbs up who've seen it. So The Love Witch, if this has intrigued any of you and haven't seen it, it's available lots of places, online and streaming. And
is this the first time we've had all of us have a wands up?
I think as long as I've been here, it's the first time.
So was there somebody on Wizard of Oz that wasn't a wands up?
No, wait a minute. I think we were all up on Wizard
of Oz had to be all wands up.
I think I remember kind of when we did the Addams Family one. I think we were wands up. I don't remember that. I don't care. We're just so excited.
We might have been wands up on that. So.
I know that I'm often contrary and will give a thumb or a wands 3/4 up for things like practical magic and stuff that I think have serious plot holes, but so I'm usually the contrary one, or Richard-Lael. It's either me or Richard-Lael who are always contrary.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really contrarian if it's Disney.
Yeah. I mean,
you're gonna have fun next week. Then we can't wait.
So next week we are going to talk about Disney witches. Correct? Did we speak of the film or just in general?
Oh, I thought we were going to do in general.
Okay. Perfect.
Oh, good. I don't really have to watch any then.
Or you have to watch them all.
No.
You have to watch all of them. I'm going to send you a list.
That would be torture. Oh, God. Actually, the funny thing is I have a very good friend who loves Disney. And he wrote me and he says, "Why do you hate Disney?" And he said, because it was just this magical, wonderful world. And I loved it so much. And I said, "Good. I'm glad you do." He says, "Yeah, but people don't like Satanists. So how can you just make a broad stroke of not liking Disney?" And I said, "It's not the same thing. Someone can like broccoli and another person can hate it. It's not a judgment. If you love Disney, nobody's perfect."
No judgment.
All right. Well, we're even a little ahead of time. Did we have a backup movie we were going to mention? I can't remember if we did.
I don't think we did. That's okay.
No.
We've got 10 minutes. We could still talk about The Love Witch. Jason and I can talk about how beautiful Elaine is.
There are so many weird little things in that movie that if you don't know witch history really well, you might miss. There's one scene, I think, and I hate the high priest character, but he says something. He's like, back in the old day, we used to all do everything together, whether we're the Satanists or the Thelemites or the witches or the Wiccans. And now there's always these blocks between these various groups. And if you go back to the 70s and read paperbacks or whatever about the occult during this period, everybody kind of intermingled because there were so few people practicing these different, faiths, religions, magical systems, however you want to define it. And for me, that was just like icing, on top of the cake, because I love that period. I love old pictures of Alex and Maxine Sanders, that sort of high ritual. And sometimes it looks a little campy, but there's just something so cool about it. And I feel like we've gotten away from that. It's like that Time Life magazine article kind of brought to life from 1972. And I love it. And we didn't talk about the midsummer ritual, which is the most expensive midsummer ritual ever put together, right? I mean, to create an entire Renaissance fair. I don't know what coven has that budget, but I want to join.
They wish they did, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. Again, the vision that I'm seeing of her, the Renaissance thing, the unicorn that's off with her, Prince knight in shining white armor, the outfit with the black outfit with the bright colors inside, the blinding, and hallucinogenics, whatever. And
you know what else too? I back on the point. You notice when the love interest in the park, he has the 70s car. She's already instantly, she sees him and then the car. But when she goes to move into the apartment building, this 2016 BMW pulls up.
Right.
And then when she interacts with the realtor, out steps this 70s with the hair that's flipped out at the end. it just further shows that that's her world, and I think I love her world, and I want to be part of that world, part of your world.
Whoa, wait a minute. The I Hate Disney just did that. That moment just happened. We need to save that. We need to actually clip that and use that to advertise for next week.
Right.
You're never living that one down.
Never. Oh, did you bring the lava lamp for the movie? I just
did. I normally put it over there, but I brought it out so that you could see, so that you, because it's, you know, it was my tribute to Elaine.
Yes.
Someone just asked if you broke, Richard-Lael. Are you broken?
That's so funny. It's really funny. I mean, I don't live in a cave. I may be timeless, but I don't live in a cave. Actually, it's so funny because I make a lot of, when I do stand-up, I haven't done it in a while, but when I do stand-up, people say, wow, for someone who doesn't know pop culture, you sure know a lot of pop culture references.
Well, I think that getting back before the singing broke out, I think that all of these anachronistic pieces that we're seeing, these putting together the 2018 cars, it's 1970s cars, is just a sign of her psychosis, is the world she wants to live in and the world she's fighting against. And it goes back and forth. And I think she wants to live in that pulp, the broad colors, the comic book feel, all of that stuff, the Renaissance, you know, in I think the overdone Renaissance ritual and ceremonies and all that was a reflection again of what she was actually seeing. What actually happened, we don't know. I think we were experiencing her experience of that. And so I think the film goes in and out of that. The way she dresses is so over the top. It is fantastic. I love it. I'm like, I want to walk around like that, but you know, right. But, you know, and the way she speaks and everything. And I think that is what it is. I mean, we are looking at a woman who is not just a witch. She is a witch, but then she's gone over the edge, not because of witchcraft.
I totally identify with it.
Well, clearly you're singing Disney now, so you have definitely stepped over an edge.
Pretty.
All right. Okay.
Pretty.
And you guys, I know, I don't know, we kind of mentioned it, but not really. Unfortunately, there's breaking in the system. Our producer was not able to put up your comment, but we have been watching them, listening them comment as we could. He just, machine's haunted. That's it. But before we go, let's everybody, if you have anything coming up, introduce yourself where people can find you. Jason.
I'm pretty busy starting at the end of the month. I'll be in Detroit for Convocation, which is a pretty large indoor pagan festival. I'll be in Austin, Texas, March 4th for Austin Witch Fest. Paganicon in Minneapolis, Minnesota in the middle of March for St. Patrick's Day. And I think Heather will be there too, which is really exciting. And the Magical Marketplace and Psychic Fair in Boxborough, Massachusetts, where I will make sure to find Courtney because I'll be in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
Very exciting.
All right. And Richard-Lael.
Well, I'm going to SatanCon in April, which is going to be fun. I'm really excited. I'm tempted to bring my car, but then I also don't want to die on the side of the road. I also don't want my car to die on the side of the road. Either way, that wouldn't be good. And then I'm going to be, this month, I'll be doing a little stint at the Shanley Hotel in upstate New York. I'll be teaching at University Magicus. I've got What the Heck's Going On, HEX. It's a Scooby-Doo reference, but What the Heck's Going on I think the 24th, the last Sunday of the month. I'll be there. So, and then I'm easily found where good gentlemen psychics are found, thegentlemanpsychic.com or just Richard-Lael Lillard. Either way, all of it. I'm easy. I'm really easy. I'm not, I'm easy.
Thank you. And Heather.
Okay, so I am going to be in St. Augustine, and I had to write it down because I don't even remember the dates. The third week of February, not Valentine's Day week. The week after, I'm working out, being at My Cauldron 2, which is a metaphysical store there, signing books, saying hello, chatting about movies, whatever you want. And I will have that up on my website, heathergreene.net, which is on the screen right now, exactly the date. And then, like Jason mentioned, I'll be at Paganacon in Minneapolis, March 16th through the 19th. That's a really fun pagan indoor conference. And then in the first week of April, the 6th through the 9th, I believe, I'll be in Hunt Valley, Maryland, at Sacred Space and Between the Worlds, another big pagan conference on the East Coast. And so I'll be presenting and talking about witchcraft books and writing and movies and all kinds of stuff. So I hope that's the beginning. That's all I know right now.
Yeah,
But follow me in my article writing, heathergreene.net. You can see everything I'm up to.
Perfect.
So
Thank
it
you.
begins.
I am Patti Negri, and you can find me at pattinegri.com on all the social medias. And I just listed like 20 places I'm going to be next week. Next week, everybody in LA, Vampire Ball time. So we have like amazing events every night, starting with this weekend, I think. And then Friday, I know I'm doing a seance on one event. Saturday is a big event at Bar Sinister. Sunday is a big event. Then I'm leaving for Australia for a week and a half or so. Then I'll be back for the Dark Water Cruise out of Florida. Paranormal people jump on in. It's going to be amazing because some of the places we go on land are the mystical, magical, wild places. I've got Parapod Festival here in Valencia, LA, Spirits of the Spring in Broadhead, Wisconsin. Copper Queen, I'm doing a thing in Brisbane, Arizona. Then I'm going to go to Dallas to a metaphysical little occult store. I work Miracles of Joy, and that's the first 5. Other than that, just go to pattinegri.com and find it. Witching Hour, please join me on the Witching Hour. I have the best guests in the world, like the 3 of these people right here. And we talk all things magical and witchy, and it's fun and entertaining and a little bit educational. And the school, if you want to learn some of this weird witchy stuff we talk about and more, if Richard-Lael is a teacher, we have werewolves, Satanists, witches, priests. We have it all. It's a real life Hogwarts, universitymagicus.com. Other than that, just come back next week. Tell your friends. We are the Witches Movie Coven. What else do we have to do? What else?
We have to cackle.
We have to cackle.
Wait, and merch. Courtney's always the one who talks about merch. If you want to wrap yourself up in the Witches Movie Coven, like a nice big cloaky blanket type thing to watch us with and watch all our movies with, go to mysterycontrol.com. So I can't talk. Mysterycontrol.com. You can get your own black fillet, almost anything. We're coming up with all sorts of fun things. And the black Phillip socks are my favorite. I saw those for the first time today. The black and white black Phillips. I mean, who doesn't need those? Every Coven member needs black Phillip socks. Lions, t-shirts, hoodies, things. Oh, and Bro Witch. Now we have something new. Bro Witch. Who wants to explain what Bro Witch while we have 1 minute left? Jason?
So once on social media, somebody tried to insult me by calling me a bro witch. So this is a long story short. And I was like, maybe I'll just take that and run with it. And all of a sudden, I came up with bro witch as a thing. And Laura Tempest Zakroff, who's a really great artist and writer, I'm not an artist, but she did the art for me. Based on some small suggestions that I had. So the bro witch is a thing. Show your bro witch pride. It's a really great design. And anytime you wear that shirt, people will stop and talk to you asking what a bro witch is. A bro witch, is a bad butt witch, because this is a G-rated show. So I'm just going to say a bad butt witch. You know what I'm saying?
All right. And other than that, we say goodbye. Our Black Phillips. Everybody needs a Black Phillip of some form. And for our last minute of the day, one more, you guys. Turn up the sound. Open the windows. Tell your friends. Let your family members we're doing, because what do witches do? We cackle. 1, 2, 3. You are the Witches Movie Coven.